Hi everyone, my name is Michael. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you're finding something of value in my work. I wanted to talk about, well, one of the reasons I haven't done these videos on the camera, I've published 55,000 videos on YouTube now. And one of the reasons only about 20 of them, or maybe 30 now, have been with my face on them is because I don't want to sound like some kind of know-it-all. At the same time, I feel it's very important at this point in the Mox News incarnation to begin to make more of these on-camera videos, because I want to be clear where it is I stand. Knowing that I'm publishing all this mainstream media public propaganda, war propaganda, I want to be real clear about who I am and where I stand. So, that being said, the title of this video, the working title, is Who's a Bigger Threat to the World? ISIS or the Pentagon? In my opinion, it's very clear that without the Pentagon, ISIS would not exist. So that hands down makes it so that, the Pentagon is obviously the biggest threat to the world. See, this is the thing I don't understand, or the thing that I think is really needs to be clarified, is that these people in the Pentagon spend their entire lives studying war. You understand? They hold war games so they can figure out what the possible outcomes are. They've studied every battle in every war ever fought, and then they take the ones they think are applicable to, where we're at now, and they put those into computers, and they run the battles with 1,000 different outcomes so that they have an idea of what's going to happen. So I don't see, the way I see it, either the Pentagon created ISIS on purpose, or they are the biggest fuck-ups in the history of war on this planet. That being said, we all know that the mainstream media works hand in hand with the Pentagon. So the mainstream media is taking all this, what they call ISIS propaganda.
Because it seems that in some perverse way, the ISIS propaganda meant to terrorize the American public has been incredibly effective.
So the mainstream media is taking all this, what they call ISIS propaganda videos, the beheading videos, the execution videos. They're showing videos of guys driving down the street in SUVs and pulling out machine guns and taking out the cars that they're driving next to, like it's Grand Theft Auto. They're showing videos of these ISIS people, people are supposed to be in the ISIS organization or whatever the hell it is, and saying, yeah, this is the real Disneyland. Come on, you guys, you're missing out. We have so much fun every single day. The mainstream media, they know this is propaganda, and then they play it over and over again on the news all freaking day long. ISIS, 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 right? So then you come to this point where it's, the way it appears to me is that there's a lot of people in the world that hate America, right? Oh, and then you have your politicians who won't shut up about ISIS. ISIS is the most well-funded organization we've ever faced. All this complete bullshit. If it wasn't for U.S. politicians and the news, nobody would even know this organization exists.
But what's clear is ISIS wants to project terror into the United States. Now,
if it wasn't for U.S. politicians and the news, nobody would even know this organization exists if it wasn't them building it up, building it up. Oh, you know, they're evil. They're going to get us. You have to be afraid. Right? 2 weeks before September 11th, they're like, with the September 11th anniversary approaching, is our American cities safe from ISIS terrorists? And then on the eve of September 11th, President Obama decides to make a primetime speech about ISIS.
It's rare for him to speak in prime time, so I'm wondering why that he chose to do it that way. What does that mean?
Well, it means that the president believes that this is a high national security priority.
And then on the eve of September 11th, President Obama decides to make a primetime speech about ISIS and how we're going to deal with ISIS. On the eve, after listening to the mainstream media for weeks talk about our American city is safe and building up the threat, he picks the eve of the most biggest terrorist event ever in the history of the United States to make a speech about ISIS. This is all big psychological operation being run on you, being run on me, being run on all of us, being run on the world in order to build these people up way bigger than they are, you know.
Let me just tell you that the hype about this group is phenomenal. I frankly find it difficult to believe. Great powers like the United States taking counsel of their fears is the first step to destruction. We do not need to fear these people in the way that the media and others are hyping it. And people from my own party, like Lindsey Graham and John McCain, who incidentally aren't going to be on the front lines, I will guarantee you, I'll take an oath on that.
The night before September 11th, he has to make a fucking speech about this. He could have picked any day, any time. He has to do a primetime speech about ISIS the night before September 11th. Every politician won't shut up about ISIS. We know the politicians work with the Pentagon. You know, I mean, we know the mainstream media does it. When you hear Sean Hannity say some shit about 9/11 is too far in the rearview mirror, you know Sean Hannity's not smart enough to say something like that. He heard one of his Pentagon buddies that he goes to lunch with say that shit. Okay? This is all a big psychological operation. And it's, I guess, what's happening, you know, is it the people of the United States are figuring out who the real threat to their freedom is. The Pentagon is the real threat. Who is it that's arming local police departments with bayonets? Okay, do you think that the Pentagon is arming local police departments with bayonets to combat terrorists?
Mr. Estevez, in the NPR investigation of the 1033 program, they list that 12,000 bayonets have been given out. What purpose are bayonets being given out for?
Senator, bayonets are available under the program. I can't answer what a local police force would need a bayonet
I can
for.
give you an answer, none.
Okay.
So what's President Obama's administration's position on handing out bayonets to the police force? It's on your list. You guys create the list. You're going to take it off the list. We're going to keep doing it.
We are going to look at what we are providing under the administration's review of all these programs.
So it's unclear at this point whether President Obama approves of 12,000 bayonets being given out. I would think you can make that decision last week.
I think we need to review all the equipment that we're providing, Senator.
The Pentagon is the real threat. Who is it that's arming local police departments with bayonets? Okay, do you think that the Pentagon is arming local police departments with bayonets to combat terrorists? Really? Okay, the biggest threat to your freedom, the biggest threat to your children's future, the biggest threat to the planet is the Pentagon. We must stop the people in the Pentagon. You and I and all proud, brave Americans that are left must stand up and say, no more. It stops here. We really hoped Obama was going to do that. Stupid, 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 stupid. Really, really hoped Obama was going to stand up and say something. Make it stop. You can tell from what's happened in Ferguson, Obama has done nothing but bolster the police state 10 times more than George Bush ever thought he could. That seems to be the entire purpose of the Department of Homeland Security, is to militarize the police state, to prepare local police departments for martial law. That's the entire purpose of Homeland Security, to be at war with you. These people must be stopped. And if you and I don't do it, some other entity will. And that will be bad for all of us. These people are evil. They do this solely for profit and power. They don't give a fuck about your future or your freedom or your rights. They don't care. You're nothing but cannon fodder at best. That's the best use for you, to put you out in Iraq getting your ass shot off. And then forget about you when you come home, if you make it back. These are the people in power. These are the people in the White House. These are the people in the Congress. These are the people in the Pentagon, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, your local police department. We must find a way to rise up and stop this, or else someone else will. And by the way, there is no terrorist threat. If there was any terrorist threat, then how come there's 4-year-olds, thousands and thousands of fucking 4-year-olds, this fucking tall, walking across the border for years and 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 years after September 11th? What, one terrorist couldn't make it across that border, is that right? But 4-year-olds all day long can? We're being lied to in a massive psychological operation. We must fight it, or all is lost. I believe in you. That's why I do this. I thank you for allowing me to do this. Anybody wants to help, some help is greatly needed and greatly appreciated. And we have to find a way. Anybody who's got ideas, please let me know. Thank you for your time. One day this war is going to end. Till that day, stay cool.
Right now.
By calling out the Islamic State group, does the president in some ways help the recruiting of the Islamic State?
Well, you know,
In breaking news, there could be as many as 3 times the number of ISIS fighters in Iraq and Syria than U.S. officials previously thought. According to the CIA tonight, there are now up to 31,500 ISIS fighters.
Compassion stirred the Buddha to send his monks out into the community. Sworn to chastity and poverty, they wandered the roads, bringing the Buddha's teachings into the world. Go forth, monks, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. There are beings whose eyes have little dust on them, who will perish if they do not hear the teaching. But if they hear the teaching, they will gain liberation.
The monks exist by begging. We think of begging as kind of a bad thing. Begging in this tradition is a good thing. It's a sign of spiritual purity.
You're not allowed to beg tomorrow's lunch today. Only today's lunch. Then you can't eat from noon until dawn the next day. Then you have to go out and get another lunch. And then in exchange for lunch, you give a lecture. Unless they say we don't want to hear about it, then you don't. But that's the only thing but that forces you to interact with the lay community.
And if you're not serving them, if you're not doing something useful for them, they won't put anything in your bowl, and that will be the end of your community.